Nation. This is Max Crosby from the Oakland Raiders.
And goes down, and Max Crosby, who forced a fumble last week.
You're listening to Murph, Mosh, and Swag Jeff on Raiders Fan Radio. Thank you so much. Just win, baby.
Thank you, Max Crosby, and welcome to another episode of the Raiders Fan Radio Rundown. That's where myself, your buddy Murph, and my best friend and yours, from the left annex
from
of
the left side of the porch.
Porch table.
Yeah. Murph's Van Porch.
The Murph's Van Porch. Yeah, that's where we run down the best of the Raiders stories throughout the course of the week. And it's been a minute since we saw you guys live from the fan cave. And we're here at the old abode. We're still waiting to sell this thing before we move in and start construction on Fan Cave 2.0. But rest assured that it will happen soon, hopefully by late summer.
Yes.
And I've already been talking to our first in-studio guest, Swag Jeff.
Have you?
We are going to have a special in-studio guest to kick off the Fan Cave 2.0, and I'm even hoping it will time up with the Fanny Awards, which is when we celebrate the best of you, Raider Nation, and also really just the best of the Raiders through the course of the year. We call it the Fannies. It's our annual award show.
Yeah.
And so how cool would it be to get a Fannies going in the new Fan Cave, special guest in the Fan Cave.
Yeah.
There's rumor of a retirement ceremony, maybe the first ever RFR Hall of Fame ceremony.
There you go.
Got some cool stuff going on there for Fan Cave 2.0. So
Wow.
anyways, welcome to the porch, playa.
Hey, man, I'm excited to be here, man. Yeah, it feels like it's been a million years since we've done a show. You know, every time we go upstairs and get the little cordless mics and stuff from the Fan Cave, it's just like the one tear comes down my eye because what used to be and all that stuff. But yeah,
and
so
it's
we're
too echoey up there. Where we did the show last time, it sounded echoey. So I'm like,
yeah,
let's try the
we
porch.
may as well
It's nice
done it in the bathroom. It just sounded all echoey and stuff like that. But we're fired up to bring you another show, bring you some content, and we will be live next week, right?
Yeah, we're going to go live from Domenico's next week, and so look for us there. We're hoping, obviously, QB Jeff will be there,
yes.
The proprietor of Domenico's, and then we'll have Michelle there, and we're going to be giving away some stuff because we need to get our fundraising kicked back in.
Yes.
And so we're giving away, you got the jersey over there?
Absolutely.
So we're giving away a really sweet jersey. We will be doing this live. If you want to get in on that autographed Howie Long
It's a Howie Long jersey right there.
It's so sweet, man. So if you want to get in on that, join us live. That will be next week, next Wednesday, 4 p.m. Pacific, 7 Eastern, live on the YouTubes. And if you want to donate before the show,
yes,
you can go to it's donation at onenationfoundation.net. You can just go to our website, RaidersFanRadio.com, click the One Nation Foundation button. You could go to onenationfoundation.net. However you want to get there, just go to the onenationfoundation.net donation page. And if you donate, which I saw, we got our buddy Jay Will donated $50.
Yep.
So
respect.
There's much respect to Jay Will. So that earns him 5 poker chips for the drawing of that Howie Long jersey. Big Shane already sent us $100.
Yep.
So we know that he's got $10 or 10 poker chips going in. So
exactly.
if you want to get in on that, it's really beneficial to the foundation because Google doesn't get their cut. We love our super chats and we love you guys for doing the super chats the way that you do. But Google takes 30% of that money.
Yes.
So if you want to make a donation prior to get in on the running for that, we get the full freaking thing going straight to the One Nation Foundation. And so we'd love to have your support in that way. But any way you choose to support us, we love you guys so very, very much. You know the passion that we have for the One Nation Foundation and our nonprofit, and all of those, not all of those of you, because there's not that many nowadays, but every once in a while I still get a comment, those don't talk enough about the Raiders. Well, listen, here at the top of the show, for 10 minutes, we're talking about something that we're passionate about, which is benefiting others and lifting up some communities that need help. Like, sorry, man, then we're guilty of that. And if it bothers you that much, then go make a sandwich and come back in 10 minutes.
There you go. Well, isn't that what Raider Nation's all about, right? I mean,
yes.
Yeah, I mean, we're not breaking down stats 10 minutes into the show. You know, we'll get into some of that kind of stuff as we move forward. But like, you know, it's family. You know, we're catching everybody up with the family. You know, what's going on in our lives? What are we doing? And all that stuff. How can you be a part of it and stuff like that? But kind of to piggyback on what you said a little bit about, you know, the folks that do want to donate before our live shows and stuff like that to get their poker chips in early, gives us all the money. It also gives the audio listeners, I think, a really good opportunity to get in the mix too, because as much as we love our YouTube audience, it's a lot smaller than what our podcast numbers
Yes,
are.
100%.
So, you know, a majority of our listeners still come from the podcast. So those audio only, you know, supporters of Raiders Fan Radio, we love you and we appreciate you. And we don't get to talk to you enough because, you know, it's just, you know, the people that we talk to are mostly the chat folks on the YouTube and stuff like that. So, but it gives those folks an opportunity to get in the mix, to win some of that as well, to help the One Nation Foundation. And then on Friday mornings, whenever they catch our show on the way into work or something like that, they go, oh, nice. On a Friday, I got a Howie jersey. Oh, let me send them my info. So much appreciated to everybody, and we'll be fired up for that next week.
Absolutely. So speaking of that, so thank you all very much again, the way you support Raiders Fan Radio, and most importantly, the One Nation Foundation. If you can't help us out monetarily, no big deal. Just give us a like, give us a thumbs up, hit a subscribe here on the YouTubes, tell your friends, or even if you're an audio podcast listener, you could subscribe there. If you're listening to us on Just Blog Baby, wherever you're finding our show, if you could just do us a favor and just help us with a retweet, help us with a thumbs up. Again, tell your Raider friends. Word of mouth is still huge. You know, you're a Raider fan, you got Raider friends. You know, and so if you could just help us spread the word, because that gives us advertising opportunities like our good friends at DraftKings.
Yes.
And so I want to tell you a little bit about DraftKings, and then we're going to talk about the Raiders. The good folks at DraftKings have set it up for new users of DraftKings. I'm one of them. I went to DraftKings, signed up. I need to use promo code RFR. That's promo code RFR. Use that promo code, and all you got to do is bet $5. And you'll get $150 of bonus bets.
Holy cow.
It's bananas, dude. Like, it's bananas. So I put in $50, and then I've been playing fantasy basketball all through the playoffs. It's been a blast. Yeah.
Good.
And there's all kinds of baseball stuff you can do. I did a couple baseball. I didn't do so hot at the baseball. But basketball has been a lot of fun. Anyways, point being though, new users, sign up. You spend $5, and you get $150 in free bonus bets. And thank you to our good friends at DraftKings, and the way that they are supporting not only this show, but again, more importantly, the One Nation Foundation.
Absolutely.
And speaking of supporting the One Nation Foundation.
Yeah.
What's up, Raider Nation? It's your boy, Will Compton. You're listening to Raiders Fan Radio with my boys Murph, Swaggy Jeff, and Uncle Mosh. Tune in because they f***ing put out a banger podcast.
Thank you, Will Compton.
Absolutely.
All right, so let's go ahead and talk about the Raiders. All right, so Jeff.
Yeah.
We got a lot going on.
We got a lot going on.
There's a lot going on in Raider Nation. But before we get to the biggest of the Raider stories of the week, it's been a minute since we've been here on the show, and so I think we would be remiss if we didn't give much respect. Here's my neighbors pulling up. They're going to be like, what the heck are these people doing? Yeah. We want to give much respect to the absolute legendary Jim Brown.
Yes.
And actually, this is a Raiders-related story in a roundabout way, and I'll tell you why here in just a second. So, the legendary Jim Brown, sadly, you know, he passed away. And when I say legendary, Jeff, it's not hyperbole.
Right.
Like, there are very few people that in our world could keep up with, like, what a John Madden represented to the NFL. And beyond the NFL. When we talk about Madden a lot, we talk about how he went from obviously being a Super Bowl winning coach and a legendary coach for the Raiders. Then he went into a legendary broadcasting career and was the best of the best in that field. And then he went off and made this video game.
Right.
And it became the biggest and baddest sports video game of all time.
Right.
So literally dominated and was a GOAT in all three fields. The same things could be said about Jim Brown. When you look at Jim Brown and what he did on the field, he ran for 12,312 yards in 9 seasons back when they used to play 12 games a year.
Wow.
I mean, absolutely the most dominant football player. I think that if you ever, like, you know, the NBA has Jerry West as the logo.
Oh, yeah.
I think if the NFL ever had a silhouette of a person, of a player to represent the league, it's Jim Brown. I think that, like, that's the guy, right? So he was absolutely dominant in his field as a player. But then when he stopped and he retired prematurely, again, he only played the 9 seasons, but then he retires and he becomes this amazing actor. Like, he did all these fantastic old school movies, and I mean, it's a long list, so I won't rattle them off to you, but it's amazing how he represented, and he was one of the early athletes, you know, him, like Alex Karras did some stuff, and there were other players as well, but he was like a really good actor and a very popular actor, but then even more important, so he does well in his movie career, but then even more importantly, he becomes this civil rights icon.
Yes.
And absolutely transcends past media, past sports, and into the cultural landscape of positive for change. It's just like, that dude, I'm telling you, man, if you don't know a lot about Jim Brown, I would encourage you to go check him out. And Raider Nation, here's where I said it's Raiders related, Raiders adjacent. Jim Brown, this is what a badass he was. He didn't want Franco Harris to break his rushing record because he felt that his record was attained when they had 12 games a year. Franco's was in 14 games a year.
Right.
So he felt that like Franco didn't have any right to beat his record because he played in so many more games, and the fact that Franco's chicken shit ass used to run out of bounds all the time.
Right.
And it pissed Jim Brown off. He's like, well, anybody could have played that long if you're running out of bounds and avoiding contact.
Yeah.
So Jim Brown, at 47 years old, when Franco was threatening to break his record, said, I'm coming back and I want to be a Raider. And so he was on the cover of Sports Illustrated, and Al Davis kind of kicked around the idea of like bringing him back.
Yeah.
But Marcus Allen is Marcus Allen, right, in 1984.
Right.
And so so the Raiders ultimately decided to go in a different direction, as they should, because it was Marcus Allen.
Of course.
But what a badass though! Like what and what's really cool, the kicker to the story, Franco never broke his record because Franco got hurt, ended up going to Seattle, and then they did nothing.
Right.
You know who broke his record?
Who's that?
Walter Payton.
Well, there you go.
The same year, 1984, and Walter Payton's record stood until 02 when Emmitt Smith
Emmett, yep.
Yeah.
Yep.
So anyway, so much respect to the legendary Jim Brown.
Yes.
Rest in peace, rest in power. Like what an absolute, just rock star of a human being, man. Like just,
yeah,
absolutely. All right. What do we got next? Oh. You know what I've got here in my toasty little hand, Jeff?
Well, we don't do math.
No.
But we love numbers.
Some of you really love one number.
Yeah.
Lord have mercy.
Jeez, Pete.
All right, let's just go ahead and dig into it. I want to hear your take on this.
Okay.
Okay, so Raider Nation, well, not all Raider Nation, a sect of Raider Nation, we'll say, was up in arms last week when Aiden O'Connell, our new rookie quarterback out of Purdue, comes out and he's wearing the number 4.
Yeah.
Now, when I saw the pictures on their picture day or whatever it was, when I saw that, I went, oh, he's wearing number 4. And then I went on to something else.
Right. Right.
What was your reaction to it?
Well, I saw all the stuff as well, all the people up in arms, so mad. How could Josh McDaniels let this happen? How could Mark Davis let this happen? And all that stuff. To me, I think it really signifies the fact that the Raiders it's the Raiders and then everything else. No one is above the Shield. The Shield will always be number 1. And that will never change. It doesn't matter what player comes through that locker room, however long they played, anything like that. 4 is just a number. It's just a number out of the 100 numbers that they're allowed to play because you can play a 0 now. But so I mean, it's just a thing, man. And frankly, O'Connell only had a couple of choices anyway.
He had 4 or 16?
It was 4, 16, or I think maybe there was a 9. And Tyree Wilson took 9.
Tyree Wilson took 9, yeah.
Jacoby Myers has 16. So there was really only...
That's right, it was 19.
It was okay, maybe 19.
I think 4, 19, yeah, because Jacoby Myers had 16 on lock.
Right,
yeah.
exactly. So there was really only so many options that O'Connell had anyway. But it just really doesn't matter. It just doesn't matter. And for people to get all up in arms about the number 4 really kind of makes you want to look at that entire roster and go, well, how come people aren't mad about this guy?
Yeah, well, or I'll give you an example. So the year after Charles Woodson retired, or not retired, but moved on from the Raiders, guess who took number 24?
Michael Huff.
Michael Huff. When Dave Casper retired, Trey Junkin took over number 87. When Nnamdi Asomugha left, Lito Shepard took number 21.
Yep.
And I don't remember anybody even having any kind of a thing about any of that. You know why? Because 21 is Cliff Branch.
There you go.
You know what I mean? 24 is freaking Willie Brown and Charles Woodson and Marshawn Lynch.
Yeah.
And 12 is Gannon and Stabler. And you know what I mean?
Jacoby Ford.
Right? Nobody was freaking out when Marinovich was wearing 12.
Exactly.
No one cares because
it doesn't matter.
Said, that's why we don't retire numbers. And so this whole idea of well, they should have given it a certain amount of time. Well, how much time is enough time?
Right.
And here's the last thing I'll say too, and this is why it was so goofy to me.
Right.
These are fan things. These are fan things. I promise or guarantee you, no one inside the Raiders building was thinking that, oh, this was what our old quarterback used to wear.
No, not at
And
all.
O'Connell wasn't thinking about that. Josh McDaniels wasn't thinking about that. Nobody was thinking about it. And those of you that say, well, they should have known, they got to read the room, and they should have known better. No, they don't care.
They don't care about your room.
This is their job. Like, when we talk to our buddy Comp, like, we love Compton to death, okay? One of our favorite podcasters ever. When he joined us here in the fan cave, and he saw my autographed Howie Long jersey hanging up, or on the chair, wherever the heck it was, he looked, no, it was the picture. Anyway,
Picture of Howie, yeah.
It was a picture of Howie Long autographed. And he looked at it and he goes, oh, Howie Long. He goes, he was a lineman, offensive lineman, right? And we're like, no, man, no, he was a defensive lineman, Hall of Famer, like one of the greatest of all time.
Yeah.
He's like, oh, okay. Well, you know what? That is not embarrassing because it's Will's job. It's his job to be a football player.
Right.
It's not his job to know the history and lore of the Raiders. This guy's a mercenary player that's played for 4 different teams in the NFL. He's not studied in the freaking Raiders history. You think Aiden O'Connell was studied on the history of the number 4 with the freaking Raiders?
No.
He don't care. Josh McDaniels, these people don't care. You know what they care about is winning football games.
Right.
They don't care what a number means to you.
Right.
And so you've got, I mean, take yourself out of the equation, Raider Nation. Like, I mean.
Well, and you know, and I think too, I think when other players wear those historic and legendary numbers within the Raider organization. and that's the example that I was going to use, that, like, you know, he understood the reverence of 24. He knew what that meant. He knew that Charles Woodson, Willie Brown, Marshawn Lynch, all these greats
might be the most legendary. It's up there with 24, 32, and 12. Those are the three.
Those are the three. So, like,
yeah,
absolutely. So he understood that. So for all the car lovers, the car or nothing people or whatever, the folks that went over to New Orleans to be with his buddy and all that stuff, like, you would think that, like, they would love that someone else is going to wear 4 because it's going to honor Derek. You know what I mean? Like, instead of looking at that as such a negative thing, maybe that was O'Connell's thoughts. Maybe he goes, well, maybe Derek's a great quarterback. Maybe I can,
if I could have
continue
like
to
him,
grow that legacy to where in 20, 30 years, when people look at the historic and legendary numbers for the Las Vegas Raiders, we'll see number 4 as one of those things. As, oh, well, Derek was the quarterback for 9 years and is the all-time statistical thing until Aiden O'Connell comes in and he becomes our, you know, next legendary quarterback or whatever. So just ease up on some of that stuff. I mean, look at it in a positive way. Yeah, and I'm looking forward to it.
And maybe he likes Favre.
Maybe
that's why Derek wore it, because Brett Favre was Derek's favorite.
Why wasn't Packer fans pissed off when Derek Carr wore the number 4 then?
Exactly.
You know what I mean? Yeah. Like, you know,
and 4 wasn't a thing until that generation of quarterback came out. Favre was the only one that I can remember that was famous as a quarterback wearing 4.
Jim Harbaugh, maybe.
Yeah, right. Well, there you go. But then next thing you know, though, Deshaun Watson, Dak Prescott, Derek Carr, like that generation of quarterback that were influenced by Favre, like, it makes sense. Just like you're going to see a bunch of kids in the 2 generations from now are going to all be wearing 15.
There you go.
You know what I mean? Because they all grew up watching Patrick Mahomes, man. It's gonna. So, anyways, I think it was a non-story, and if really, I mean, the ultimate, if anything, there's only ever been one player in the history of the Raiders it's ever bothered me that he wore one of a legendary player's number.
Who's that?
Number 81. We had a tight end named Pharaoh Brown that wore number 81, and it used to drive me nuts that during the game you would look on the sideline and you'd see Brown 81, and I'd be like, fraud. You know what I mean?
Sure.
Like that one I didn't care for.
Sure.
Like that one, it's like, all right, like, even if you're trying to honor that, it's like you're not even in the same position, and you sure as shit ain't no Timmy Brown.
Yeah.
Like, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah. If there's a punter that comes on named Jacoby Stabler that wears 12, you're going to be like, what the hell is this guy doing?
What are you doing, Jacoby Stabler?
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. So then you could look at the Raiders and go, read the room. That ain't good.
That ain't good.
But this ain't that situation.
If you got Doug Bolitnikoff wearing number 25, that's a problem. You know what I mean?
Exactly. So speaking of Derek, right?
All right, speaking of Derek.
So we saw another thing on the social media. Twitter's an amazing place.
I love Twitter. I freaking love Twitter.
You love Twitter. Sometimes I can't keep up with Twitter.
I'm on it too much.
You're on it too much.
And because I don't just go for the Raider stuff, I go for news in general. Like,
you go for everything.
I'm just kind of on there like that. I don't do a lot of Facebooking. I don't do Instagram. I don't. Twitter's my jam. Twitter's
your jam. Twitter's your jam. So we see on Twitter. So everyone starts arguing about, about who's more overrated, who's actually better. Is it Derek Carr or is it Rich Gannon?
That was a really interesting conversation that got started. So I don't forget what the catalyst was for it, but basically it got into the discussion about breaking down the careers of Derek Carr and Rich Gannon, and I was shocked at the amount of people. Well, maybe I shouldn't be, but I still was surprised at the amount of not hate that Gannon got, but dismissiveness to what Gannon got. There was and I think these are younger fans, and I hate to look. I'm an older guy now, I'm middle aged, and so I hate to always pin it on. Well, you guys weren't around to see it or remember it the same way or whatever.
Right.
But for Rich Gannon to be the absolute stud of our team, he was the leader of the Raiders, of the Oakland Raiders, on our resurgence in the early 2000s. He was absolutely the leader of the team. So much that he was willing to challenge John Gruden, which nobody did, or does, even up until his unceremoniously, retirement or whatever. No one ever challenged John the way that Rich Gannon did. He had balls. I used to say he's got a case of the ass. Like, he'd be all red-faced. They'd be going at each other. Like, they would just win, baby. And if he saw a way to just win differently, he was going to let John know about it.
Yep.
Even to the point where John would send him in with plays, and he would change that shit.
Oh, yeah.
To success.
Right.
Not like some other people we've heard about that change it to detriment. Gannon would change it to success.
Right.
So
there's a difference right there.
There's a big difference right there. And so Rich Gannon to lead our team to a Super Bowl, 2002 MVP. I mean, to me, like, this is not disparaging Derek. And I even though I have my thoughts about the way that it all ended, I respect Derek Carr's career with the Raiders immensely.
Sure.
But he didn't do what Rich Gannon did. And this whole rhetoric around, well, Rich Gannon inherited a Super Bowl team. Derek never had that team built around him. I call bullshit on that. I mean, I remember what the Raiders were like when Rich Gannon got there. We hadn't been to a playoff game in 5 freaking years.
Yeah.
And now granted, we had some dogs on defense. Of course, you had, young Charles Woodson, and we had some really good players on defense. But those teams were all offense. It was Timmy Brown. It was freaking, it was obviously Rich, and it was Jerry Rice.
Yep.
I mean, like, Jerry Porter, like that.
Yep. Charlie Garner.
I mean, Lincoln Kennedy. I mean, like, we had some absolute studs on offense.
Sure.
That team was driven by offense.
Yes.
Defensively, like, even as much love, and we're going to get into overrated versus underrated players here in a minute. Overrated player, Greg Biekert. Like, you know what I mean? Like, there's a lot of players on defense that really weren't as good as maybe we remember them as.
Yeah.
But I will tell you that in those moments, as a fan, watching Rich Gannon play, he had 100% command of the offense and usually command of the game back then. When you looked at, like, he would go on passing streaks, Jeff, where he would throw for like 20 passes in a row without having an incompletion. And I know some people go, yeah, well, John Gruden's West Coast offense is dink and dunk. I don't care. It's an NFL game, and you're completing 20 passes in a row, and you're not talking about 3-yard gains or checkdowns or dumping it behind the line of scrimmage. Right. It's the ball still going downfield because, you got 2 Hall of Fame wide receivers. Like,
exactly.
Come on, man.
And they were both coached by the same guy. So I mean, I saw.
Well, that's a good point.
And that,
too.
So I mean, you can really compare the two of those guys because they were under the same.
It's the same offense.
It's the same offense and stuff like that. So you could say the same thing about Derek, that it was the dinks and dunks, and we've been critical of him in the past for that. As I'm sure sometimes Gannon was criticized about that a little bit as well. But you can still see both of those guys heave the ball down the field as well. So so that's a silly comparison. But if you're a stat junkie, and you want to actually dig in and look who was better.
Just on paper.
Just on paper, because Derek, yes, is the statistical leader in every quarterback category in Raider history. If any stat that a quarterback has, compiled over the course of his career, it's Derek and then it's everybody else. But if you actually look at these two guys, you put their careers side by side. Derek Carr played a lot longer for the Silver and Black, right? He played
9 years.
9 years. So from 2014 to 2022, he had 142 games. Rich Gannon, 1999 to 2004, 74 games. So when you look at those stats, okay, Gannon played half the time that Derek did. In games played, you can just basically take Derek's stats, cut it in half, and that's what it would be, or vice versa, or double it, and that's what it would be. So if you look at these, if you look at them, So Derek Carr, 63 and 79 record.
Okay.
Okay. Rich Gannon, in 74 games, he was 45 and 29.
Pretty good.
So if you double that, if Gannon would have played as long as Derek did in the silver and black, he would have had 90 wins.
So 27 more wins.
Would have had 90 wins, yeah. So
save it. Oh, you're the defense.
exactly. Completions. Derek Carr had 3,201 completions. Rich Gannon had 1,533. So that's about where they were at.
3,000.
It's right there.
Would have 3,000, yeah.
Completion percentage. Derek 64.6, Gannon 62.6.
And that's
it's about right there.
About right
It's
there.
right there together. Touchdowns. Derek Carr 217, Rich Gannon 114. So if you doubled that, Gannon would actually be ahead.
228, yeah.
He'd be ahead. Touchdown percentage. Derek 4.4, Gannon 4.7. So right there together. Interceptions. Derek 99, Gannon 50. Right there together.
Right there together.
Right
Yeah.
there together. Yards per attempt, 7.1 for Derek, 7.2 for Rich.
Same offense.
Same offense. Yards per catch, 11 and 11.5. Yards per game, 248 for Derek, 237.6 for Rich.
There you go.
All that stuff. Quarterback rating, 91.8, 91.2 for Rich. Those stats are right there
They're
together.
about the same
They're
player.
about the same player. So Rich Gannon was sacked 162 times, Derek 264 times. So
Wait a
Gannon.
minute, no, hold on. No, say that one again.
Yeah, because that's interesting because everyone said, well, Derek didn't have an O-line. Derek didn't have an O-line. Well, Derek was sacked 264 times. Gannon was sacked 162. So if Gannon had played the entire time, he would have been sacked 320 times. So he would have been sacked way more.
Really interesting.
It's a very interesting stat, man. So, and then of course the big one, quarterback or fourth quarter comebacks. Derek had 28, Gannon had 9. But he didn't have to come back a lot
That's
of
the
times
thing, is it?
because the team was already successful, already winning. He didn't have to come back and play. So you look at those stats and you really can't argue one or the other statistically which one's better. But oh yeah, Gannon took the Raiders to the Super Bowl.
And has a 2002
And has
NFL MVP.
an NFL MVP.
And that's where, like, you look at
end.
the end. Look
The
at
end.
the eye test. That's where, like, so
There you go.
statistically they're the same. What do your eyes tell you when you watch on game day? And for those of you that are too young to remember it, or you were just, you were kids or whatever when it was going on, go back and watch some highlights. Go watch the 2002 AFC Championship game against the freaking Titans.
Yeah.
And then tell me how bad Rich Gannon was.
Right.
I mean,
100%.
we dominated the freaking Titans in that game.
100%.
It wasn't even close. And they were a good football team.
Yeah.
With a really good defense back then. And
Absolutely.
Eddie George. And you know what I mean? Like,
100%.
They had a great football team back then. So
100%.
anyway, good stuff there, Swaggo. That's good stuff.
Yeah, absolutely.
That's good stuff. All right, let's go ahead and hit a break. And then, do you have any breaks over there?
I don't have
Do I
any
have
breaks.
all the breaks?
You have all the breaks.
Okay, all right, let's go ahead and hit a break, and then we're going to talk about.
Time. My life is running out of lifespan.
Hey, this is Pete Koch, former Los Angeles Raider. Yeah, back in the old days, baby. And you're listening to Murph and Uncle Moss, who happens to have the same hair as me. Check it out, Raiders Fan Radio.
Oh, I forgot our emails.
Oh, do we have emails?
Yeah. Shoot, we have a sea of fans.
We do?
Yeah.
Do we have a voicemail? Or, oh,
No,
it's all
I've
just all
got
emails?
I've got some emails to read.
Oh, we'll go get them.
Okay, I'll do that. Okay, here.
We're not done with our conversations though, right?
No.
Okay.
Looking. He's under the gun. He's fired. He's throwing. It is.
All right, so thanks to everyone in the chat. If this is not live, so we do not see who you are, but much respect to everyone that is in here, that is watching, that is listening, wwherever you are. We greatly
Yes.
appreciate your support on that. And yes, we do have some emails that we're going to read. Yeah, absolutely. Are we going to read? Are we going to do those now?
Yeah, let's do it. Just do it now.
Just a break, just a sea of fans break right in the middle of a rundown. I love it.
Let's do it.
I love it. Okay, you want me to read one?
Yeah, you read one. Here, you read this one, and I'll read Paul. Oh, actually, no, there's 3 of them.
Okay.
You read 2, I'll read Paul.
Okay. All right. Greetings, Murph, Swag Jeff, Michelle, all the loyal followers who found their way into the fan cave. It's a great time to be a Raider.
Or the porch.
There you go. Well, okay, it's always a great time to be a Raider. Anyway, now that we're in the offseason, that means that it's once again time to crank up the hype train that is the Chargers' yearly anointing of playoffs or division titles. Then we can sit back and watch those dreams melt like the 5-pound pad of butter that sits atop a giant stack of Andy Reid pancakes. I was encouraged by the draft. I think third-round pick Byron Young is going to be a staple force along that defensive front for many years to come. 100% agree with that. 100% agree with that. I believe Mr. Mayer will emerge as one of the 5 best tight ends in the league by the end of year 3. I love that, and I don't even think it's going to take 3, bro. I don't think it's going to take 3.
I think he's going to adjust quick, man.
I think he is too. And I hope that Aiden O'Connell gets to sit on the bench for a full year, and that we don't have to have a repeat of what happened to Connor Cook 7 years ago. Although I would certainly take a playoff run again. Now let's talk about Tom Brady. First of all, I congratulate him on his success over his entire career. There is no way that Brady would have ever been anywhere close to where he is without the Raiders. Al would have never brought in a quarterback that he himself could have probably beaten in a 40-yard dash. But the fumble, yes, we all know it was a fumble. It was not Brady's fault. And he never went whining to the officials. Mr. Walt Coleman is the one who cost the Raiders that game and served as the ouster for John Gruden.
Thank you.
Yeah.
100%.
Yeah.
That's something that gets overlooked all the time.
100%.
People blame Brady for the tuck rule. It wasn't Brady. It was Walt freaking Coleman. That's where your hate deserves to go.
There you go. Now Brady wants a piece of the Raiders. He wants to own a piece of the Raiders. And I say, why not? And that has happened, right?
I think it's a done deal. I think it's been approved.
He's bought in. He's bought in.
Yeah.
How's it going?
Good,
hey there.
good.
Hey, sorry, we're doing a podcast.
Yes, sir.
Say hi to the mailman, Raider Nation.
Yeah, there you go. Hey.
Appreciate you.
So he owns a piece of the Raiders now, and I say why not? Bring Brady's star power and legacy to Vegas, and perhaps it will rub off. And no, I don't wish for Jimmy G to get injured and have Gandalf come in riding on Shadow Fox in the Battle of Orcs or Chiefs. That is simply too old, and he's way slower than Al Davis, who is dead. But he could certainly do a lot of great things as an owner with swagger, which I agree with that. We haven't talked about that, and I don't even think we had that on the rundown.
We don't even have that on the rundown.
But I think that a lot of people have mixed emotions about this. I'm all in. I think it's great. Mark Davis does not have a son. He does not have a daughter. There is no legacy after Mark Davis unless he, at however old he is, decides to pump out a kid. It's not going to happen. So it could very well be Tom Brady carries Al Davis and Mark Davis's torch. Wow. And that's bananas, man. That's one of those bananas. What is it? You either die a hero or live long enough to see yourself. Well, for Tom Brady, it might be the opposite of that.
It might be the opposite.
You could,
live long enough to become the hero.
Yeah, and
he's a Bay Area guy,
man. He's a Bay Area guy.
That's the thing that people forget a lot. He's not an East Coast guy. He's not a Patriot. He played football at Sarah High School, for crying out loud. He's a Bay Area guy. And I know that people say, well, he was a Niner fan. Well, so was almost all of the Bay back then, because the Niners were rattling off Super Bowls.
Right.
And so any kid, they were all Niner fans. Aaron Rodgers was a Niner fan. They're all watching Steve Young and all that kind of stuff.
100%.
So, you can't begrudge him for that, but he's still a Bay guy.
Yeah.
He's still, you don't think the Raiders meant something to him, at least a little bit?
Of course.
In some fashion growing up? So,
of course.
I don't know.
Of course, absolutely. Well, and you take into the fact that, look at all the fans, including us, that'll go, oh my gosh, the refs they hate us. They hate the Raiders. They hate the Raiders. Well, now if Tom Brady, who was the darling of the NFL for a majority of his career and is one of the most loved icons in the NFL and all that kind of stuff, if we bring a little bit of that in, then maybe we get on a little more level playing field. And yeah, maybe that takes the chip off of us Raider fans' shoulders, and we probably there'll be people that are pissed off about that as well.
We'll find something else to get mad about.
There'll be something, but yeah. So anyway, I'm all about it.
Yeah, I have a little bit more reservation than you do. I'm not 100% as bought in, but I get it. And that's the thing, is that would I have rather have seen that be Rich Gannon or or Tim Brown?
Of course.
Would I rather this be somebody that's legacy with the Raiders? Yes.
Charles Woodson.
There you go. Somebody that's probably the best example is Charles Woodson. I would have loved to have seen that, but that's not the way it's going to go. And so for for like what Jeff said, like Mark Davis is not a spring chicken. He's well into his 60s now at this point, or is he even 70? Like he's
getting up there.
He's getting up there a little bit, and so like. You know, what's the team going to do afterwards? You want it to just be sold to some investment group or whatever?
Yeah.
Like,
you want the league to own it?
Yeah, no, hell no.
Yeah,
you know what
no.
I mean? So, no, I get it. I get it from Mark's standpoint. And listen, when you talk about a legacy of greatness,
Yep.
there's your guy. That's it.
Well, we talk, and you know what we just said earlier, shield above everything, right? Tom Brady turned down an unbelievable contract with Fox, right?
Oh,
he
yeah,
said, no, I want to own the Raiders.
I want to own a piece of the
I
Raiders.
want a piece of the Raiders.
Which
I want to get.
wondered at the time, well, why would he turn that down? Now you know.
Got some of my respect, man. Kudos.
Yeah.
Salute
Instead
to
of
you.
chasing the bag. Yeah, you're right.
Salute, Tom
Good
Brady,
call.
for sure. So finally, I'd like to welcome the Oakland Athletics to Las Vegas.
Yeah.
Now there will finally be something better for baseball fans to do than stare at the outfield and marvel at certain patches of grass are much greener above controlled sewage irrigation systems in Alameda. I can't wait for football season, and I look forward to the summer of swag and, of course, the fannies. And I'd like to suggest a new award this year.
Okay.
It's called the Everybody's Got One Award. And given honor of a rant when you all went on during one of your shows where you carried on about buttholes. This would go to the person with the most unique and interesting take on something.
I thought you were going to say most interesting butthole. Like, hey,
don't tell us about your life. But yeah, something so unrelated to anything relevant to the show. My early nominee would be Cousin Sonny and his hilarious blasphemous monologue in which actually he had a point but got lost somewhere in the mix. Anyway, have a great week, Raider Nation. And as my old college roommate used to say, if it ain't a suck fest, then you're probably not trying too hard. Did you hear that, Denver? Your faithful servant, assistant to the GM of Show of Episode Numbers, T-Hom. P.S. Bring back Uncle Mosh. We need more baking sheets in the house.
Ah, nice.
Well, I don't agree with that last part there, T-Hom, but other than that, Uncle Mosh can come back. Just
that part.
Just leave the baking sheets at home.
Just don't beat the shit out of it.
Yeah.
All right,
All right.
So you got one more.
I got one more. What's up, RFR Nation? Murph, Swag, Jeff, and the original F-Bomb Michelle. Hooligan Nation Raider here. It's a beautiful day in the neighborhood. The draft is over. The schedule
really is a beautiful day in the neighborhood.
Gorgeous day.
That?
Gorgeous day. The draft is over. The schedule is out. I've grabbed up tickets to take my oldest son to his first ever Raiders game right in the black hole. He'll never know what it was like in Oakland, but I don't think he'll ever forget his first game.
Raise him right.
I know I haven't. So I'll toss it out there. What was your first Raider game and did we win? Counting down the days, worse than my kids waiting for a fat guy to come down the chimney. Psychologically damaged, might have Stockholm Syndrome, not really sure. I'm ready to say it. New season, new quarterback, new chances to just win, baby.
Let's go.
Absolutely. Okay, so what was your first Raider game?
2011 against the Jets.
That was your first home?
First home game against, because I was born in 73, right?
Yeah.
We were kind of broke when we were growing
Okay.
up. So I've always said that, like, my first trip to the Oakland Coliseum was in utero because my mom went to the 72 World Series. But back then, you could just order World Series tickets out of the San Jose Mercury News. They weren't crazy expensive to go to World Series. And so I would go to a lot of A's games and then eventually started going to Giants games as well. But so all my trips to the Oakland Coliseum were for A's games, Monster Truck Jam, concerts. I saw the Stones there. Well, and then the arena and where the Warriors played, I saw David Lee Roth. I saw like, all kinds of people. My very first concert ever. Anyways, all that said, the Raiders were gone.
Oh, that's right.
The Raiders were in L.A.
They were in L.A.
So by the time that I got old enough to where I could afford to, or pay for my own way to buy a ticket or whatever, the Raiders were long gone. So
and then you moved to the Keys.
And then I moved to the Keys, and then I moved to Tennessee when the Raiders came back. So when I moved out of California is when the Raiders came back. The Raiders came back in '95, I believe is what it was. And so then I would move that year, the year before anyways.
Yeah.
And so I never got a chance to see them at home. Despite all the millions of times I've been to the Oakland Coliseum. So that said, I went back, and this is a really fond memory. Cousin Sonny and I decided we were going to go to a game together every single year, no matter what. He lives in Oregon. We're out here in Tennessee. We just said we're going to meet up at some point, whether it's on the road or at home. We're going to go to a Raider game. And so we decided we're going to go to a home game. It was against the Jets. This is the Rex Ryan Jets. This is LaDainian Tomlinson. But more importantly, this is Darren McFadden. Jason Campbell, Denarius Moore, those guys, that Raider team was on fire, and we beat the Jets, who were heavily favored in that game. We ended up beating the Jets. The Oakland Coliseum was going nuts, but the most important thing about that personally was that Sonny and I invited our dads.
Yeah.
It was my Uncle Bruzzy, who was a huge Raider influence over me, also my old man. Then, of course, when we had some of their old-time friends and our other buddies that went, there was a big group of us that went, about 8 of us, and so Sonny and I got to share our first Raider game in Oakland with our dads, who had been in the Oakland Coliseum again for everything Raiders and A's and everything else.
Yeah.
Back when in the early 70s, when the Raiders were becoming, and developing that mystique and that, that old school 70s renegade Raiders. Those were, my old man and my uncle had front seat to that. So for Sonny and I to connect with our dads, connect with that legacy, connect with our fandom.
Yes.
And then sadly, that was Al Davis's last home game. He passed right after that.
Wow.
And then both of our dads passed away within 6 months of that.
Wow.
Well, not quite. Uncle Bruzzy first and then my dad. But anyways,
Yeah.
neither here nor there. But so yeah, that was like our last chance to really get out, and like our dads were both in good health then.
Sure.
It was before they both got sick and like whatever.
Yeah.
So just there's a lot of personal,
A lot of stuff that
lot
ties
of stuff
to that
going on
game.
emotionally, mentally, and beyond just this Raider thing, which
Yeah.
we're all nuts for anyways. Anyways, it's probably a longer answer than you wanted, but
No,
anyways,
I didn't know. I think that was great. That was great. And mine, of course, was the last year in Oakland. I think November 3rd, 2019, the game against the Lions, the famous Hunter Renfrow toe tap, the pair of touchdowns from Josh Jacobs, where you see all over social media Jacobs jumping into the black hole, and you see Raider Ramon there
buddy
with
Ramon right there.
see him with his Iron Man mask and stuff. So yeah, so that was a really memorable moment. It was the only game I ever went to in Oakland. Still the only home Raider game that I've ever been to, because I still haven't been to Allegiant Stadium yet. But yeah, that was very special to me as well. So and taking the picture in front of Al's original torch and all that stuff. There was just a lot of cool. I mean, and of course hanging out with my best bros and stuff like that.
I was going to say, our epic tailgate, Mojo throws down with an epic tailgate.
Yeah.
With him and his wife Libby and their friends threw it on epic tailgate, and we all walked in together, man. And it was interesting because, see, I've been back to the Oakland Coliseum since my dad and my uncle passed, but for some reason that one really connected with me and Sonny, because we were in, obviously our big tailgate and all of our friends, and then walking in, and it was just like, we just had this like, it was like we were with our crew.
Well, and it was like,
It was like now this was like this RFR
this
thing.
Raiders Fan Radio. That was the first time we had met a lot of those folks, right?
Yes, and we all went and we hung out with the Pillaging Podcast guys. That was really cool, and so many people that came around to our tailgate were like, it was like the first time that we like connected with people that like knew us from the show. Like, and that was a really that was
a
kind
surreal
of
moment for me as
really
well.
Neat, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Yeah. So, anyways, that was a trip.
Yeah.
That was a good trip. It was a good trip.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
That was our first year at Bolitnikoff.
Yep.
First year we
100%.
presented money to the
100%.
Bolitnikoff Foundation.
Yep.
So yeah, that was a special trip too.
And leave in the comments what your first game was, if the Raiders won and stuff like that. So yeah, for sure. So after this is over, leave that in the comments section.
Absolutely.
So all right, we got Paul.
Okay, let's go, Paul. Hey, while I'm reading this, will you check the battery on that, please?
I sure will.
You might have to just tap the button. Hey, everyone, hope you're well.
Press the damn button, nerd.
Press the button, nerd. I wish I had that. Whatever.
I do.
Well, you push it when you get back. Or push it now.
Just press the damn button, nerd.
There you go. Hi, everyone. Hope you're well. A short email for you this week as you're in the process of moving. It's been relatively quiet around the Raiders for a couple of days after the schedule release. Then Devontae Adams did a pretty generic interview. Tom Brady was given the opportunity to become a minority owner, and Aiden O'Connell chose his jersey number, and for some unknown reason, part of Raider Nation went batshit crazy. Could somebody explain to me why having Tom Brady as a minor...
Did he say Tom Brady? Or is that what you just said?
I'm mumbling. Because I mixed Brady and minor and the Y and anyways.
Well, I like it, Tom Brady.
Tom Brady. That sounds like I'm from the Northeast. Or
no, I said you're combining Brady and Raider.
Oh, I get you. Oh, okay. So
Raider Nation.
Tom Brady as a minor shareholder is a problem? What exactly is it that caused a few days of panic around the Tay interview? And why the hell is it disrespectful for the number 4 jersey to be worn by Aiden O'Connell? There seems to be a small section of our fan base determined to overreact to the smallest things these days, and as a consequence, spread ill will where there is none and disruption for no reason at all. The smallest non-stories keep appearing, and the biggest negative spin is put on things, all in the name of shaming the coach, GM, or Mark Davis. When did people get so damn sensitive? Sadly, I can only see it getting worse as the season progresses. Every time we screw up or the Saints win a game, the following are going to be hard work. Dude, and that Saints schedule is easy. We're going to hear it from the rooftops. See? All he had to do was get a defense.
But did you see his presser? Did you see his latest presser? It was typical.
Same old Derek?
Just that vanilla ass halfway, I'm going to give my best and I came here to get better and, you know, maybe some games I won't do well, but I'm always going to be the hardest worker and the this and the that and, you know, it's just, yeah.
Aw, shucks. I'm firmly in the need convincing column when it comes to Josh McDaniels, but come on, folks, stop looking for ways to attack him and stop looking for stories that aren't really stories. That's very well put.
Truth.
And I'm with him too. Like, that's the thing, like, whenever I, like, try to defend what's going on, they're always like, oh, you're McDaniels apologist. No, I'm not. The guy's freaking, he just hadn't enough time yet. We'll see, he may suck. You know, last year sucked. And if it sucks again, suck again. Like, if it sucks again, then...
Because he's our coach.
Yeah. Like,
he's our coach, just like we apologized for Derek for a lot of his career.
Like,
because he was our quarterback.
He's our guy, man. So I'm going to support McDaniels until he's not the Raiders coach anymore. I want him to do well. It drives me nuts. It's so funny to me. It's like, and this is probably a little bit of an over comparison, but I think there's similarities. It's like people that root against the president. Like, if it doesn't matter if I voted for you or not. You're the president of the United States, and I'm an American, and I want our country to be run well. Doesn't mean I agree with everything that you do, but I root for you.
You're not going to root for him to fail.
I don't care what side of the aisle they came from. I'm going to root for the guy that's running our freaking country. Same thing. I'm going to root for Mark Davis. I'm going to root for Josh McDaniels. I'm going to root for now Jimmy Garoppolo. I'm not going to come out and be like, oh, we're going to suck and this guy blew it, blah, blah. No, I'm going to try to lift him up and support him because I want him to do well. This whole idea of like, I want us to suck the way he's gone. That's so stupid. Why would you do that?
Tank for a draft pick. That's the same conversation about
that.
Like,
man, why would you root for your team to fail so you can get rid of somebody? No, I want him to take us to the goddamn Super Bowl.
That's weak.
Gosh, bless it. As for a rookie quarterback, I fear for O'Connell now. He made a, what? Okay. He's made a rod for his own back by choosing number 4. He could go 40 of 40 for 450 yards and 6 touchdowns a game for us, and it wouldn't be good enough for some because he's chosen to wear number 4 on his back. The bigger issue is to me is that we still haven't properly addressed the linebacker room. There you go. You want to get into something? That's something to be critical about. Yeah, we got no linebackers. Unless we do, I'm going to find it harder to be optimistic going forward as our offense is going to need to put up 45 points a game to compete. It's for that reason I'm holding back on any predictions for the new season. I believe the schedule is pretty good and very winnable, but I believe there are 8 or 9 50-50 games, and for me it depends on what Ziegler does with the linebacker position. That is the key. Strengthen the D-line and the backfield, of course, but it wouldn't hurt to have at least one veteran linebacker with a green dot in the middle of the field. Amen.
Yeah.
And I don't think Kyle Van Noy is that guy. I hear a lot of people talking about Kyle Van Noy.
Yeah, a lot of people are really hype about him.
Wasn't he more like a pass rusher? Didn't he play on the outside on New England's defense?
I don't know.
Like, he played with his hand in the ground a lot, and people are talking about having him stand up. I'm like, I don't remember Van Noy being a big stand-up linebacker.
I don't know.
Maybe I'm wrong. I don't know. Somebody correct us in the chat room and let me know. That alone could transform our record. If they do nothing, we'll need to score big points a game to stand a chance. If they add a couple of good players, we could have a better season than some people think. Fingers crossed for some movement post June 1. And we will. I have a really, really sneaky suspicion Hunter Renfrow is going to be our linebacker because we're going to trade him.
I think so too.
We'll either trade him straight for a linebacker or trade him for a pick and trade a pick for a linebacker. I think that's going to be the key to us getting a linebacker because post June 1, his cap number is nothing, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. So I think that's where this thing is going. Oh, heck, and we're coming up on post June 1 too.
Yeah, it'll be this time next week.
Yeah, crazy.
A week from today.
A week from today. Good call.
Yep.
So as the sun sets on the fan cave, as it did over the Oakland Coliseum, and the new exciting Allegiant Fan Cave is on the horizon. I bid you farewell the next time. All right on, Paul. Stay safe, RFR family. Love you, Raider Nation. His Lordship, the Royal Scribe, Paul Edgerton, Shropshire, Mississippi. Polly Award winner 2019 and 2022. Foggy Glasses Award winner 2020. BRT Sizzler Scorekeeper, proud made man. Five-time times two winner of the Raiders Fan Radio BRT Sizzler Award.
Paul. Hello, Paul. Paul.
Is your name Paul?
Hi, I'm Paul.
Well done, Swagger.
Oh, well, yeah. Hey, so before we jump into the next thing right there.
Well, let's hit a break.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Well,
Yeah.
okay, play it.
Thanks.
Hi.
This is Adrian. And you're listening to Murph, Mosh, and Swag Jeff on Raiders Fan Radio. Just win, baby.
Hell yeah, we will. Hey, so thanks to everyone in the chat. Like we've said earlier, this is not live. This is pre-recorded, so we don't know who's in the chat, but we love you and we appreciate you.
Hit the thumbs up, hit the like.
And send it to your Raider friend.
Please.
Yeah, absolutely. So, hey, so before we jump into this next little bit, I wanted to just tag just real quick because it's another thing we didn't have because we haven't done a show in 47 years.
Yeah.
But Josh Jacobs.
Oh, that's okay.
So
That's
Josh
better.
Jacobs, swag update. So Josh Jacobs has officially changed his number.
Oh, yeah. He's
Josh
8.
Jacobs, he's officially changed his number. He's JJ8 now. But all the people
I
love it. I love it. I think it's great getting him back to his roots, the college route, and all that stuff. But he posts a picture on social media of 8, but he's in his Raider uniform, which I think a lot of people were so worried that Josh is so pissed at the Raiders organization for giving him the tag, that he hasn't signed it, that all this kind of stuff. I still think that they're working out a deal. I mean, and you know,
think so, too.
and if they can trade Renfro, they get a little extra money, stuff like that, bring another player in, something like that. I really think after post June 1, we're going to see that a deal has been done. I've heard that he wants McCaffrey money. I don't think he's going to get McCaffrey money, but I don't think anyone else is going to really get McCaffrey money.
That's the thing, man.
You know, I know
Which
that.
is what, like 16?
It's like 16 or 17.
Okay, it's
so
up there.
yeah, because Saquon Barkley turned down a $14 million deal because he wanted more, kind of like similar to McCaffrey. But you know, Barkley more so. But Josh is kind of in that same boat too, of like, well, you're really good when you're healthy, but we may not be able to pay you all this money
He hadn't gone back to back yet. That's
hadn't
when we
gone back to
covered all
back.
of his numbers out.
Absolutely,
one time,
but
yeah.
I think that that's really important, and it kind of shows that like he's still in that Raider mindset. He's not ready to, you know, stay away from Vegas, all that kind of stuff. I think it's good. So it's very encouraging to see that.
It wasn't just like like a graphic or something.
Or a picture of him in Alabama uniform or something like that.
Yeah. No, that's a good call out, Jeff. Yeah. And I think they're going to get a deal done. I can't imagine that he's not going to sign. Now, you know, of course, OTAs are going on right now. OTAs have started, and so you know, it wouldn't be surprised if Josh Jacobs is not there. Jimmy Garoppolo's not there because he freaking didn't get cleared because of his foot.
Yeah, he had surgery.
He had surgery back in March, and so he didn't get cleared as of today. And so, of course, Raider Nation, speaking of Twitter, collectively is now holding their breath, and everybody's like, oh, I can't believe that, you know, McDaniel's this and Josh that and blah, blah, you know, and Dave Ziegler and blah, blah, blah. Listen, man, it's a calculated risk that they're taking. They knew he was getting surgery. The reason that he waited till March to get the surgery was because the Niners were having him rehab it for as long as he possibly could, because there could have been a chance for him to rehab it and not go through the surgery and then be available for a Super Bowl run, or for the Super Bowl anyway.
Right.
So it's all kind of makes sense. Now, granted, I get it. And the one criticism we have about Jimmy G, everything else lines up. If you read did you see Gronk's comments on Jimmy Garoppolo?
I did not.
Glowing, dude. This is what, like, when people say, like, oh, Jimmy can't push the ball down the field and doesn't get him to this person, doesn't get him to that. I'm like, ask George Kittle, ask Brandon Ayuk, ask Deebo Samuel, ask Rob Gronkowski. These guys love him. The guys that are the guy that's charged with getting them the football, they really like. Yeah. That's a loud message.
Yeah.
Like if you don't freaking
and now Tom Brady is a small part of the Raider organization.
There you go.
You know what I mean? Who taught Jimmy literally everything that he knows about NFL quarterbacks.
Absolutely. So like if that doesn't resonate with you in a certain way to like the amount of if they have reverence for him as a pass thrower, then listen, who am I as a fan? Like those are the guys that their numbers are dependent on. Their livelihood is dependent on Jimmy G getting them the football, and they love the guy. Anyways, so when you read Gronk's comments, he says that he's going to get the ball into guys' hands. He's going to make sure that he feeds Devontae. He's going to make sure that he pushes it downfield. He's doing all these things. He's like, he's the right guy for the job. You know, he's going to handle the game well. He's cerebral. He's like all these different like glowing things about him. The only thing that you can land on that's a criticism is goddamn health, and that's why people are freaking tripping a little bit. So I get it. Like, I'm not going to say that I wasn't even tripping a little bit, but I think that when you dig into it and you realize that it's like, okay, the Raiders, this wasn't like a flippant decision. They knew that the guy was not going to be ready to go for OTAs. He'll be fine by training camp. And when you talk about a KG vet now like Jimmy Garoppolo, who already knows the system, I got news for you, Raider Nation. OTAs are for guys to learn the system.
There you go.
You probably won't see a Max Crosby there a whole bunch. You probably won't see those guys there a whole bunch. You know who you are going to see? Aiden O'Connell, freaking Mayer. You're going to see any of the new free agents that we brought in, Jacoby Myers.
Yep.
Those are the guys you're going to see because they got it. Well, actually, Jacoby Myers doesn't need to learn the system either. He's already got it down too, probably.
Yeah.
But anyways, the guys that are unfamiliar, younger players or rookies, or free agents, those are the guys that are going to populate OTAs like crazy. So don't freak out that Jimmy G's not there. He's going to be ready to go. He'll be fine for training camp. But then, I mean, I'm with you. And hopefully he's good for, 17 weeks or 18 weeks now. You know what I mean? So
or longer than that.
Well, thank you, Jeff. A little bit longer than that.
Yeah, we need about 23 weeks
out of him. About 23 weeks out of you, Jimmy.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, so a lot of people think Jimmy's overrated. I don't think Jimmy's overrated. I think Jimmy is perfectly rated.
That's it.
When he's healthy, he's inarguable.
Absolutely. The Bunny Ranch says he's rated R.
He's the rated R superstar?
Oh, yeah.
You see what I did? Yeah. So anyway, so a lot of people say Jimmy G's overrated.
Yeah.
I want to give props, again, speaking of Twitter, to a good buddy of ours on the Twitters, listener to the show, Cameron, he goes by @CameronPark81. Our buddy Raider Cam, if you don't follow him, link up with him on the Twitters. That's @CameronPark81. Good guy.
Great
guy. Good
guy.
supporter of our show, man.
Yep.
Comes with a lot of good feedback and not just like questions, because it always feels weird when people like ask us our opinion. I'm like, oh, how say? Like, how nice.
Yeah.
Like, if you actually care what we have to say, we're just two idiots on the porch.
That's it.
Literally, like we're just sitting.
We're just sitting over here.
Like a couple of old guys.
Saying hi to the mailman.
Yes.
Yeah.
So anyway, so I really do appreciate when people interact with us so much.
Sure.
And Cam is awesome, man. So anyways, he said, here's a conversation starter, guys.
Okay. Who
is the most overrated Raider in history? And there was a lot of feedback. It was a great post. And some people asked the question like, well, by who? Media, by fans, personal opinion, whatever. So I've got two answers.
Okay.
Okay. And I'm going to go one off of one I remember, and then that maybe we don't all remember it the same way.
Okay.
And then I've got one that I think is absolutely 100% both. Okay, you ready?
Okay.
So my number one is Jim Plunkett. And people that are big Plunkett fans have given me a lot of shit on the show over the years because I used to talk shit about Jim Plunkett and Tom Flores. Not like shit like disrespectful, but what I used to say all the time when we were talking about whether Flores, and you're wearing a damn shirt, whether Flores should be in the Hall of Fame, I said that the reason he was kept out so long, and this is just truth, man. So like this is not, we love this man, Tom Flores. We met him in 2019 at Blitnikoff.
Yeah.
We've met Jim Plunkett now twice. I met him twice and was equally starstruck both times. Like I get, this is not an irreverent position. Okay, so this is not me saying that they were anything other than just what it really was in the moment. Okay, Flores, I said he was kept out for a long time because Al Davis was the freaking architect for so much of the Raiders back during his time with them. And then when he went on to Seattle after that, and Al Davis wasn't around, it was terrible. Tom Flores did not have a good, healthy, or very good career at all with the Seattle Seahawks. It was terrible.
Yeah.
So I get why they kept him out of the NFL or out of the Pro Football Hall of Fame. Now that said, can you tell the story of the NFL without telling the story of Tom Flores? No, you can't.
No.
The man had too much important, monumental moments in his career.
Sure.
As a player and then as a coach. The barriers that he broke.
Yes.
And things that had nothing to do with Al Davis. It had to do with his own merit and the things that he was able to accomplish in his career. That's where he got that. And when you look at it like that, 100% he's a Hall of Famer. Now, if you look at just his numbers on paper, that's where you can say, I don't think that's why he's in. And so I used to say that. I'd be like, well, I don't like it. I think he should be there, but I get why they slow played him.
Mm-hmm.
All that said, say the same thing about Jim Plunkett. Jim Plunkett does not have the stats.
Mm-hmm.
He played with monster football teams, monster defenses, Marcus freaking Allen, an absolute stud of an offensive line in front of him. And the take on Jim Plunkett back in the day was that he wasn't a good thrower of the football. People used to call his passes wounded ducks because they would get up in the air and do like this. And somehow they would, once in a while find their way into Cliff Branch's hands, and Cliff would turn it into a 75-yard touchdown or whatever. So when you look at the way that Jim Plunkett performed as a quarterback, he wasn't like a great quarterback. Ultimately, those teams won, and he deserves all the credit for that. But those 2 Super Bowl trophies that he won, he gets all the credit for that. But even Al Davis wasn't sold on Jim Plunkett. Al Davis...
Well, he got benched several times in his career.
Traded for Dan Pastorini, who broke his leg. And there were so many... Jim Plunkett was not what you would think of. He was way more Eli than he was Peyton Manning. He was a guy that was good enough at the times that he needed to be during a team's hot run, and they won the Super Bowl in the end. The Raiders were the first wild card team to win the Super Bowl. It's not like there was a dominant season there. Now, the 83 season was different. That was dominant. But that's Black Sunday, man. You're talking about freaking Rod Martin, Greg Townsend, Howie Long, Lyle Alzado, Hayes and Haynes, the greatest cornerback duo of all time. Jack Squirek picking off freaking Joe Theismann, which was Charlie Sumner's famous Bob Trejo call. That was all coaching, because even Squirek was he was great for that moment, but he wasn't a legendary player.
Sure.
But he was the guy for that moment, and it was a coaching decision. Anyways, so, Ray Guy saving the freaking ball, flying over his head in the Super Bowl, which was a little known fact. That ball that was shot over his head, long snapper, was Todd freaking Christensen.
That's right.
But Todd Christensen was a freaking stud. But anyway, so there was so much championship elements around those teams that Jim was not the reason those teams won, like when you look at Kenny.
Right.
Kenny, of course, he was surrounded by greatness too. But there were a lot of games that were won because of Kenny. The only reason that the Immaculate Deception even was close to happening is because Stabler takes off and runs the ball into the end zone for the only score the Raiders had for the game on 2 busted up knees. He's the reason that game, the sea of hands, the whatever, the holy roller, all that stuff is, he created and all that. You tell me what the famous Jim Plunkett play is.
Right. Yeah. Handing the ball to Marcus.
Hand the ball to Marcus, or dumping it to Kenny King, who takes off for a touchdown.
That's true. That's true.
So again.
But I think a lot of.
Clarify one last thing,
Okay.
And then I'm gonna shut up and throw it to you.
Yeah, please.
But here's the thing, and please hear me loud and freaking clear. This is not a crap talk of Jim Plunkett.
Mm-hmm.
This is not a disrespectful position at all. I'm just trying to consider what, for someone who's around and alive and remembers the mentality of Raider fans around Jim Plunkett back in the day. You think that people were conflicted about Carr? Same shit when it came to Jim Plunkett back in the day. There were people that were supporters of him, and everybody rooted for him, but there was also every time he would drop back to pass at times, it would be oof.
Sure.
You know what I mean?
Sure.
So there was that element, man. So anyways, that's why I would say that he's overrated. Now, he's still, out of all the quarterbacks in the NFL, he's probably my 3rd favorite quarterback ever. Because he's the 2-time Super Bowl winning, because he's not Kenny Stabler, and now because we become endeared to him because he was so close to us, not so close to us, but for a moment was Darryl LaMonica.
Sure.
And I think that the things that LaMonica did were so groundbreaking, and so I would think that Jim takes some. How's it going?
There.
So,
sorry to interrupt.
No.
How Dallas Stadium in Vegas, I have to know.
Oh,
beautiful.
It's gorgeous.
Absolutely
No,
beautiful.
it's amazing, yeah.
Eventually, like the Titans, we usually will go back and forth. We've skipped a couple of years, but man, like I got a couple of friends and we're just waiting. And it wasn't this year. Hopefully it'll be next year.
Yeah.
I hear it's state of the art. I hear it's really
It's
gorgeous. Yeah, it's amazing.
It's
It's
gorgeous.
an amazing experience, yeah.
Yep.
your season, guys.
Hey, thank you
thanks
so
a lot.
much. Appreciate
Take
it.
care.
All right, Raider Nation, shout out the Amazon guy.
Yeah, shout out Amazon guy.
Appreciate that, brother.
Yeah.
Anyway, so I hope people don't take it as any kind of irreverence. It's just that, like, I'm trying to qualify because all those players are my favorites. Like, you know what I'm saying?
Sure.
Like, and I know. I was talking about LaMonica. I was talking about so Plunkett. I think is probably third for me, behind Stabler and LaMonica. So, but I think that and I think in retrospect, in the way that a lot of folks look back historically, I think he's a little overrated.
But I think he's rated just right.
Okay.
I think he's rated just right because if you're a quarterback in the NFL, yes, stats.
I'm getting crucified in the chat room, by the way. I know, and that's okay.
Maybe, but maybe not. Because I get what you're saying, but I don't think people hold him to that level. I don't think people, and maybe some people do hold him to that.
No, there's a lot of people that say he should be in the Hall of Fame because he's the only two-time Super Bowl winning quarterback that's not.
Yeah, well, I think the Hall of Fame has that right now. You know, maybe one day he gets it. You know, and I hope that he does. You know, I mean, he's the quarterback that brought 2 Lombardi trophies to the Raiders.
But can you tell?
But I couldn't defend why he's not. I couldn't defend why he's not because I understand why he's not. But I don't think that a lot. I mean, and like you said, some people said he should be. I don't think so. And to those people, they are overrating that guy. But to me, I think where he actually sits within the Raider organization as far as like where they rank him as far as a quarterback, I think he's ranked just right.
Well, here's the thing. So I look at it like, okay, could you tell the story, like I said about Tom Flores, could you tell the story of the NFL and not tell the story of Jim Plunkett? I think you can because those Raiders teams were not defined by him.
Sure.
Can you tell the story of the NFL and not tell the story of Derek Carr? Yeah, you sure can. Okay. Can you tell the story of the Raiders and not include Jim Plunkett? Absolutely not.
No.
Can you tell the story of the Raiders and not include Derek Carr? Absolutely not.
Right.
But that doesn't make them Hall of Fame worthy. And that's
sure.
And I think that's the big difference for me.
Yeah, for sure. But I don't think that this is a conversation so much is, are they Hall of Fame worthy or are they overrated? Because
but that's what a lot of people think, that he should be in the Hall of Fame, and I understand why he's not.
Yeah.
So I think those people are overrating him.
Sure, okay. All right, who are some others? So I
Okay, all right,
move on from Plunkett. So a couple other ones.
Well, next time I see Jim at the Blendikoff Award, he's going to be
he's going to whip your ass.
Bro, he's like, what happened?
because he's subscribed.
Hell yeah, he is. You know I love you, Jim.
Yeah. No, he doesn't. But you see a lot of other players that were on that list. The response on Twitter to that was fantastic.
Fantastic. So Nnamdi was on there.
Nnamdi's on there. Of course, you saw a lot of Derek on there. Stuff like Beakert's on there.
Nnamdi.
Yep.
Nnamdi was one. Derek Burgess was on that list.
A big controversial one that you see a lot. Bo Jackson.
Bo Jackson. That was. But you know what? I get it though. I don't necessarily agree, but I get it because he is like, a lot of people look at him as the absolute be-all end-all running back for the Raiders. Yeah. I don't even close. I don't Marcus Allen hands down.
Well, I think it's Marcus and then Bo, but I think Bo is just like, I think a lot of people would rate him. I look at him as the most what if player. What if he had stayed healthy? If he had stayed healthy, I think he probably would have been. He would have been the Raiders' greatest running back of all time. He would have surpassed Marcus. I think he would have surpassed Marcus.
I think if he would have been dedicated to football, yes.
Well, that's true too.
And that's the thing, is that like Bo's significance is in the sports landscape. He was the Michael Jordan of
an athlete.
Of a guy that brought all the Bo knows and all that stuff. Like, he completely talking about
Tecmo and all.
Completely transcendent, way beyond the NFL, beyond baseball, beyond, like, he was. That was the whole thing. The whole Bo knows thing was that, like, Bo knows football, Bo knows baseball, Bo knows skateboarding, Bo knows bowling, Bo knows, like, Bo can do anything, right? And he became this, like, completely elevated figure because of the marketing campaign that was behind him, but also because of his, he was a completely unmatched talent when it came to athleticism, but that doesn't make him a great Raider when you stack him up and you look at the history of Raider running backs.
Sure.
I mean, he arguably didn't have as much of an impact as Charlie Garner did.
That's true.
And I mean, and that's here's a hot take for you.
Yeah.
You know, or Mark Van Egan.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Or like even Clarence.
Well, and
Davis.
one that I had on my list to move on from Bo a little bit, Napoleon Kaufman. I think
I was
Napoleon.
surprised when you said that. Man.
I mean, because I kind of always have heard about him as one of the greater running backs during that time.
He was awesome.
When, in the late 90s and stuff like that, right? So, so you look at that, but you look at like his stats and you actually like break down and look. He had one really good season. But he played for the Raiders for 6 years. He broke 1,000 yards one time. And in 6 seasons, he was listed as the starting running back twice. He was a depth guy the rest of the time. And in 6 seasons in the NFL for the Raiders, and that's the only team he played for. He only played.
He retired early.
He retired early. Well, there you go.
God bless him for that.
And God bless him for that. That's unbelievable. But as a Raider running back, he had 12 touchdowns in 6 seasons. Like, Josh Jacobs did that last year with his eyes closed, right? I mean, like, that's, so you look at that and you look at him as listed as like one of those top running backs during that time for the Raiders, and I just don't see it. I just don't see it.
Yeah, I think that's a good call out, dude, because I mentioned Garner. He's underrated. People underrate Charlie Garner and how good Charlie Garner was. And granted, he was a Niner first, and so I get that. But like his time with the Raiders, talk about dynamic. That dude catching the ball in the back, he was like Marshall Faulk.
Yeah.
Like he was awesome, man.
Yeah.
But so, so that's good. There was a lot of names on there. I was surprised to see Nnamdi show up as overrated, and a lot of people said, but he never really, he didn't have any stats.
I saw some people put Alzado.
Alzado was at the tail end of his career.
He was at the tail end of his career.
I mean, he was much more, the way that I remember it anyways, he was much more leadership and figure and what he represented and that nastiness and that aggression and all that he brought to the team. Yeah. He wasn't lighting up the freaking stat column. It was Howie Long and Greg Townsend, and you know what I mean? And,
right.
So I think that I kind of get it that he was his significance to the team is not overrated.
No,
but his actual performance,
yeah,
I can see that.
Sure.
And that's where the opposite with Derek Burgess, because Derek Burgess put up the big numbers, but he really didn't have much of an impact other than those occasional numbers that he put up. Is he still in single season sack leader for the Raiders? Yeah, I think he might be. I think Derek Burgess is still our single season. I think so. But really didn't have any like big impactful plays.
Okay.
Or, you know what I mean? No strip sack to win a game.
Sure.
Like the big highlight games that you would say. But Nnamdi, real quick, and then we'll move on. Nnamdi, man, that desert was dry back then for the Raiders. We didn't have anybody good.
Yeah.
Our teams were terrible. These were 2-win and 4-win football teams. They were absolutely terrible. And Nnamdi, he won't be a Hall of Famer, but he was a Hall of Fame talent playing on an awful football team.
Right.
And he doesn't have any stats because people just wouldn't throw to him. Like, Al Davis would put him out there on one side, or whoever the coach was at the time, which de facto was Al Davis, would put him on that side and leave him out there.
Yeah.
And it was just Nnamdi covering whoever their player was on that side. And quarterbacks just wouldn't throw over there.
Right.
They would throw over here and focus on Stanford Route or Chris Johnson or whoever the other corners were.
Yeah.
That was Schweigert's years. Schweigert played. Good new friend of ours, Stuart Schweigert.
Sure.
He played on that team, and he was a great player. Stuart was for those early years before he started struggling with injuries and whatnot. But there was not a lot going on, and so I bet you if you were to ask Stuart Schweigert if Nnamdi was overrated, he would give you a hard no.
No, yeah.
Because he really was, man. It was like him and Darrelle Revis were like 1 and 1A, going back and forth every year for who's the best corner in the league. That was all that Revis Island shit and all that stuff.
Yep.
Nnamdi was just as good, if not better. And my favorite part about Nnamdi, one of my favorite parts about him, not only did he give us something to have pride in as a team back then, because we have a lot to root for.
Right.
But he was a converted safety. Al Davis saw him at Cal. and brought him in and said, "Oh, we're going to switch you over to corner." And Nnamdi was like, "Okay." And look at that. I mean, that was like one of the last big moves that Al Davis made, where it was like you still saw that little bit of that old school Al, that talent evaluator, that innovative spirit that Al had, where he saw something in Nnamdi and said, "Yeah, he's really good here, but he will be great here." And sure enough, he was, man. So, anyways, I don't agree with the Nnamdi being overrated, but anybody else you can think of?
No, I saw a couple people put Khalil Mack on that, and I'm like, no, I don't think so.
Khalil Mack got 5 sacks in one game.
Yeah,
Khalil Mack picked off what's his name?
Cam Newton.
Cam Newton and ran into the end zone for a game winner. Like, he was a closer, man. I didn't agree with that. Our defense changed when he left.
Oh, totally.
You know what I mean? We missed that ability to have somebody come in and close out a damn football game. Because Khalil did a lot of that.
Yeah.
So, no, he was a stud. I don't agree with that.
Yeah, I don't agree with that either. All right, hit a break.
Is there any more? Okay. All right, good stuff. We want to hear yours, Raider Nation. Overrated player.
Nobody enjoyed a good Donnybrook more than sixth-year linebacker Phil Villapiano.
Not overrated.
Nope.
This is Phil Villapiano, and you're listening to Raiders Fan Radio.
Absolute stud. Paisan, Phil Villapiano. All right, so last thing we got. This ended up being a lot longer than I expected.
It's a long show.
This is fun, man.
Yeah.
We're good on time.
Yeah, we're good.
We're good.
We're good.
We appreciate you, chat room. Thank you guys for hanging in there.
Yes.
We love you guys very much. And before we get into this last subject, if you would just help us out and hit a like, hit a subscribe, tweet this thing out, tell your friends. If you're an audio podcast subscriber, hit us up onto YouTube. Search for Raiders Fan Radio. You can find us there and hit a subscribe there. Or
and find us next week.
Yeah, well, hold on. Let me use
okay.
And if you're a video watcher, subscribe to us on the audio podcast, please. As Jeff mentioned, that's still where our biggest audience is. But we do know there's a lot of you that just watch us and don't listen to the audio. Even if you don't want to listen to the audio, just subscribe to it anyways, and then just delete the episodes or mark them as played as they come across your phone. It all helps us out because, again, it helps us get advertising opportunities like the good folks at DraftKings, where if you sign up right now and use promo code RFR, you can get an extra $150 in bonus bets with only a $5 bet, and that's out at DraftKings. All right, Swag, what do we got next week?
Absolutely. So next week, not sure what, are we going to go Wednesday?
Yeah, Wednesday. Live,
okay, all right, live Wednesday. We're going to be, exactly. We will be at Domenico's Deli here on the square in town, here in Middle Tennessee, and we'll be giving away this thing right here, this signed. And
she's a beaut, Clark.
She's a beaut, Clark, and absolutely. And this one's a little bit different than some of the other jerseys that we get because this is like an official Nike game jersey.
Yeah. Flop it out there, man. No pause.
Easy. So it's
not like a stitch
JSA certified, but yeah, it's not the stitch, but it's like the ones that you would wear like to the games.
It's a $100 jersey.
It's a $100 jersey,
and
it's signed by Howie Long on the back. So yeah, so next week, make sure you find all the money that's in your between the cushions of your couch and all that stuff. Bring that because it's all going to the One Nation Foundation. So make sure stick around next week for that.
Absolutely, appreciate you, Raider Nation, very very much. And if you want to get in on that early, you want to send us a donation before next Wednesday.
Yes.
Go to RaidersFanRadio.com, hit the One Nation Foundation link. That will take you to a donate page on PayPal, and it goes straight in there. And then just let us know. Send us an email. Show. That's S.
Oh.
You got take a text.
Yeah.
SH. Not 2 S's, just 1 S.
Oh, okay.
So S. H. O.
Okay.
W.
Okay.
That's just a W, not 2 U's.
Oh.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. There you go.
Got it.
Show at RaidersFanRadio.com and let us know that you've donated via the PayPal so we can go on there and track you and make sure you get the proper amount of poker chips.
There you go.
All right. So last up here, let's talk about some flex games.
We be flexing, man. Check it out.
How's your flex game?
It's pretty good.
Ooh,
I got a little flex action.
Yeah.
Heck yeah.
So stupid. So what was I talking about? Oh, flex games.
Flexing.
So, I'm usually pretty good about trying to find a justified reason for doing things. Whether it come with the Raiders or even the NFL, I try to see past my initial response to things.
Sure.
Okay? I've tried to see past my initial response on this changing of the ability to flex Thursday night games, and I am not down with
America,
it.
go to the YouTube right
Sorry.
We'll do that too. I always say, if you want to get to the answer to the question, find me the end of the money.
There you go.
There's your answer.
That's the answer.
So so I know the answer to the question. What is disappointing is that the NFL is putting out-of-market fans in a position to where we literally, and I'm including us in this, because we literally plan our vacations, whether it be around the Bolitnikoff Foundation dinner and a game, or just a game in general. We've been talking about going to Buffalo, right? And maybe going up there for a game, which would be amazing. And I hope you do. Salt City, Silver and Black, Jay Morris, you guys are the best. And we really hope this thing works out. Let's get this freaking pig sold here so we can get on to the next phase and we can make our plans for September. But anyways, we really want to be up there for the Buffalo tailgate and to hang out with Salt City, Silver and Black, and all the amazing East Coast Raider fans.
Yes.
So I think it's ridiculous that the Raiders and these other teams from week 13 on to what?
17.
17 can be flexed away from Thursday into a Sunday game. So as use the Raiders as an example, they play on Thursday Night Football week 15 against the Los Angeles Dolts, okay? So if we are planning to go out to that game, which we're not, and there's definitely won't now, but if we were planning to go to that game, say we set our flight for Wednesday or Tuesday, we're going to spend Tuesday night, Wednesday night, go to the game Thursday, and then come home on Friday. Fun trip, right?
Absolutely.
It'd be a blast to do that. Oh yeah, then the Raiders, then the NFL, because it's going to be a potential playoff game, because they're playing for a wild card, or God forbid one of them's playing for the division, and then all of a sudden they flex that thing into a freaking Sunday, a Sunday night or whatever else, so they can draw more ratings, and all of a sudden our Vegas trip to go out there to see the Raiders turns into just a Vegas trip. Now granted, it's still a Vegas trip, we'd still have fun, but what am I going to do? We got to sell your tickets, you got to complete,
100%.
and you got to do a short notice.
Right.
Like, I think it's such bullshit that they would, because you're not talking about like flexing it from like, oh, well, this was because this has happened. Oh, it was a Sunday night game. This happened at this last year, the Raiders-Patriots game.
Yeah.
It was a Sunday night game. Neither team was playing for anything, so they flexed it into a Sunday afternoon game.
Right.
Okay, no big deal. Now you got to leave for the freaking stadium a couple hours early.
Sure.
Whatever. That's not a big deal. But
Yeah.
switching it by 4 days?
Yeah.
Give me an effing break,
Absolutely.
dude. That's bullshit. I think it's so stupid.
It is. It's stupid. And kudos to Mark Davis for voting against that.
Amen.
I mean, he
That's the bright spot of the story.
very publicly voted against that.
8 owners did.
Absolutely. And for that reason exactly, because they're thinking about their fans, because, you know, especially Mark Davis, that knows that Raider Nation just isn't in Las Vegas, that it's literally everywhere. And so there's going to be people flying in from wherever, from
What about our
Middle
Black
Tennessee,
UK folks?
the UK folks, stuff like that. You're going to have people that are planning a trip and then going to have to and he came out in a press conference and said, yeah, Raider Nation would have to change their plans, and then all 3 of those Charger fans that are flying in from LA would have to change their thing too. Like, oh yeah,
Mark.
yeah, and if you any chance you can throw shade at them is great, and for Mark Davis to do it was clutch, man. It was so cool. But that's why. So much respect to Mark for voicing his opinion there and voting against that for sure. So
absolutely.
Yep.
All right, Swag Jeff, you got anything else?
That's it, man.
Yeah, all right, I think we did about 90 minutes. So anyway,
yeah, there you go.
Raider Nation, we love you guys so very, very. Wait, hold on, watch this. We fancy up in here. Appreciate you guys so very, very much. We love you in the way that you support not only this show, but the One Nation Foundation. We will see you next week. That's Wednesday at 4 p.m. Pacific, 7 Eastern. We will be back live again. We'll be at Domenico's Italian Delicatessen down here on the square in beautiful Murfreesboro, Tennessee. Our good buddy QB Jeff will be there. Michelle will be back there. Myself, Swag Jeff will be there. Love you guys, and we will see you then.
See you, bye.
You're not going to do your thing?
Oh, thanks to everyone in the chat.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, I don't know who's in there.
No.
Well, we're on a damn porch. I don't know what I'm doing.
Guest.
Yeah, we hadn't done a show in a long time. Hey, thanks to everyone in the chat. Paul's in there for sure. Ron, keeping everyone in check. Michelle's probably in there for sure, you know.
The Graves are probably in there.
The Graves are in there, so yeah. So much respect.
Jadis is probably there.
Kiljada, he might be. He might be. Yeah, he might be in there. Who else?
Our buddy Intel might be in there.
Intel. intel. Jason Hunter, he's sniffing another chance to win another piece of swag. Yeah. You know, he early front runner for Summer of Swag winner from this year's Fanny Award. You know,
I
so
sent him 2 jerseys again.
Absolutely. So hey, so like we said, if you missed out. Next week, a week from today, we will be live at Domenico's. We will be giving away the signed Howie Long jersey, all for the One Nation Foundation. So tell a friend about it. Shoot us a PayPal, shoot us a message, let us know if you want to get poker chips early. 100% of that money goes to us now as opposed to 70% from Google later. So we love you, much respect. Thanks everyone for tuning in for an RFR Rundown where we take a lighter side journey into the dark side. What happens in Vegas started in Oakland. See you, bye.
Adios, malingerers. Love you guys. Oh yeah, then I gotta do this part.
What is it?
Get out, YouTube!
Goodbye.